The alien council chamber was filled with an unnerving quiet, a hum of tension rippling through the air. The councillors, those few who still had the strength to sit, stared at the holographic projections scattered across the room. Outside the walls of their fragile sanctuary, the galaxy unfolded in all its majesty, a peaceful, dominant order. Until now. "Report! Now!" Commandant Threx barked, her voice snapping through the room, sharp as a blade. Her clawed hands gripped the console. Before her, a jittery, involuntary response to the sight before her. The data stream on the screen flickered, unstable and erratic. "It doesn't make sense, Commandant. There's no logical pattern." The technician's voice wavered, a tremor of fear he couldn't mask. "It's a ship, a warship, but its structure, it's nothing like anything we've ever encountered. It's faster than anything we've calculated, and its energy output is impossible," Threx interrupted, her tone thick with disdain. "You cannot speak in riddles. What does it mean? What are we dealing with?" The technician swallowed hard, his antennae stiff and trembling. "It's human. I don't understand. The ship is alone. No fleet, no reinforcement. It's just one vessel, but it's unlike anything we've ever seen. Its signature, the energy readings, they don't make sense, Commandant. It's outpacing anything in the galaxy." A chorus of murmurs swept through the chamber. A warship? A human warship racing through space, unaccompanied. It was unheard of. Alien species, even the most primitive, always relied on numbers, on overwhelming strength. It was a principle that the galaxy had come to trust. But now, this anomaly. "Activate the defensive networks. I want every fleet in range," Threx ordered, her voice clipped and authoritative, though something in her eyes betrayed the unease in her chest. "This is nothing more than a miscalculation. Their primitive technology cannot stand against us." The technician's trembling hands ran over the control panel, activating the holographic interface. "There's nothing, Commandant. No signal, no communication, nothing. This ship is just coming." Threx stared at the screen, her claws curling into fists. The ship's silhouette, dark and ominous, appeared in the projection. It moved with a grace that seemed unnatural for something so large, so menacing. Its surface reflected no light, absorbing it instead, as though it thrived in the very shadows of space. The craft glided effortlessly, an unstoppable force, undeterred by the absence of any accompanying ships. It was alive. Its very presence seemed to suffocate the air. The alien council sat in stunned silence. There was no explanation, no understanding. Their minds raced through the possibilities, each one more terrifying than the last. Humans were a primitive species. No, they had been a primitive species, one of little consequence. They had fought wars on their tiny blue planet, yes, but they had been far from the center of the galaxy. There had been no need to monitor them, until... "Now, what is it doing?" Threx muttered, more to herself than anyone else. Her gaze was fixed on the hologram, her heart thudding in her chest. It was almost as if the ship were observing them, as if it could feel their fear. "Is it coming toward us?" A voice finally broke through the silence, shaky and uncertain. "What is its course? What is its target?" "We don't know," the technician responded, his voice tight. "It's as if the ship has no purpose other than to move forward, unstoppable. There's no transmission, no indication of anything, just a pure, single-minded approach, a calculated death march." The fear in the room was palpable now. Threx's mind raced, and she fought to maintain control, to hide the flicker of panic that gnawed at the edge of her thoughts. This wasn't supposed to happen. Humans were a footnote, no more than a minor inconvenience. "Get me a direct link to the closest fleet. We need to assemble forces. This can't be just one ship." Threx's voice was laced with cold precision, but even she knew it wouldn't be enough. It wasn't enough. "Commandant," the technician spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. It's too late. The ship is too close. There's no time for reinforcements. They'll be here before our forces can even assemble. The counselors shifted in their seats, panic now fully taking hold. What are they doing? What is their next move? Threx demanded, but she didn't wait for an answer. Her eyes were fixed on the dark vessel on the screen, now closing in with unnerving speed. The ship was a symbol of something ancient, a vengeance that had long been buried beneath the surface of humanity. It wasn't just a ship, it was a promise. In the depths of the Blackstar's command center, Captain Marcus Drake sat still, his hands resting on the controls before him, his mind sharp and focused. He looked at the screen, his ship alone, in the void, racing toward the heart of the alien empire. "How long?" he asked quietly, his voice calm as ever. "ETA. 30 minutes, sir," replied his tactical officer, her voice unwavering despite the weight of what they were about to do. "Good," Drake said, his eyes narrowing, his jaw setting in a hard line. "They have no idea what's coming." He wasn't afraid. No, not anymore. Humanity had endured too much, fought too hard, for too long to let anything stand in their way. The galaxy had forgotten about Earth. It had thought them weak, primitive, insignificant. And now it was time for the galaxy to remember. The Blackstar surged forward, its engines roaring to life as its weapon systems powered up, sending a tremor through the silent vacuum of space. The ship was an extension of its captain, a force, forged from the pain of centuries, the rage of a species that had been pushed too far. Captain Drake took a deep breath, his fingers curling over the command button. Brace for impact. As the ship cut through the black, one final chilling message was sent to the alien council, its coldness seeping into their very souls. Prepare for extinction. For a brief moment the hologram flickered, as though struggling to comprehend the sheer magnitude of the coming destruction. Then the image went dark. The council was left in the suffocating silence, the fear so thick it was nearly tangible, and as they awaited the inevitable, they realized the truth too late. Humanity had entered the war, and nothing, absolutely nothing, would survive its path. The alien fleet had scrambled into position, their ships flanking the border of the human quadrant, a faint glimmer of defiance against the inevitable. The council had ordered them to stand firm, no retreat, no surrender. But as they watched the lone human ship, the USS Blackstar, growing larger in their scanners, a palpable sense of dread began to suffocate the air. This was not the kind of enemy they had prepared for. Commandant Threx stood at the center of the command room, her eyes fixed on the massive holographic display showing the Blackstar's approach. It had been 30 minutes since the first transmission from the human ship, and in that time the mood in the command chamber had shifted from disbelief to terror. The human ship was relentless, closing the distance faster than they thought possible. "Status report," Threx demanded, her voice echoing in the silent chamber. The technician hesitated for a moment before speaking. "There's nothing we can do, Commandant. The fleet is in position, but we can't predict the ship's behavior. It's moving too fast. It's not following any known protocol. It doesn't respond to hails. There's no communication. It's as if it's an animal hunting, and it's closing in on us." The council members exchanged uneasy glances. The idea of being outmaneuvered, outclassed by a single human ship was beyond their comprehension. But the signs were clear now. This was not some primitive human technology. This was something new, something they had never encountered before. "We cannot allow this to happen," Threx muttered, almost to herself. "It's just one ship. We have the numbers, the firepower. It's a miscalculation. They're desperate, trying to show strength. The humans always do this, show off their primitive might. They will fall in line." "Commandant," a voice spoke up from the side, one of her senior officers. We have a report from the outer perimeter. The ship is not retreating. It's not changing course. It's heading straight for us. There's no hesitation, no deviation. And its weapons... A new report came through the holographic interface, interrupting the officer. "Weapons are online," the technician said, his voice crackling through the room. "The energy signatures are off the charts. It's preparing something massive." A flash of cold realization swept through Threx. She could no longer afford to be in denial. The humans weren't showing off. They weren't overconfident. They had come to destroy. Their ship was nothing less than a weapon, a force of nature. She could almost feel the heat radiating off the Blackstar even from here, miles away in space. "Alert all ships," she commanded, her voice resolute. "We are going to meet them head-on. We will not back down." Her heart pounded in her chest, the adrenaline coursing through her veins. For the first time in her career, she feared the enemy she faced. The crew aboard the USS Blackstar was silent as Captain Marcus Drake stood at the helm. His eyes were fixed on the dark void of space outside the bridge, but his mind was alive with calculations, strategies, and cold resolve. He could feel the weight of the moment, but it didn't shake him. The fear that might have taken root in others had long been replaced with something far more powerful: determination. "How long until we reach their fleet?" Drake asked, his voice calm and measured. 5 minutes, replied his tactical officer, a sharp woman named Lieutenant Sarah Voss. She stood at her station, scanning data with intensity. "They've formed a defensive perimeter. We're walking into a trap, sir. They're expecting us." "We'll give them something unexpected," Drake replied, his lips curling into a grim smile. "Do we have all systems ready?" "Yes, sir," Voss answered. "Quickly. EMP is primed, cloaking device is activated, and we're ready to fire on command. The nanotech shielding is engaged as well." "Good. Get the rest of the crew into battle stations, and tell engineering to keep the engines at full throttle. We're not here to play games." Drake's eyes hardened as the crew prepared for what was coming. They had trained for this moment. Earth had been underestimated, written off as a primitive species, but now humanity would show the galaxy what it truly meant to cross them. The Blackstar's weapons hummed to life, a menacing sound that seemed to reverberate through the very bones of the ship. Every crew member stood at their stations, ready for the storm to come. In the cockpit, Drake could feel the hum of the ship's engines beneath him, like a living, breathing entity. And at the heart of it all, he stood as the pulse, steady and unwavering. "We'll show them just how primitive we are," he muttered under his breath. The words felt like a promise to his crew. It was time to remind the galaxy of humanity's strength. Back in the alien command room, the Council's mood shifted from uncertainty to panic, as the Blackstar's course remained unaltered. The human ship was coming. There was no time for more. Reinforcements. There was no turning back. "Ready all weapons," Threx ordered, her voice shaking despite her best efforts to remain calm. "We can still take them. They can't possibly survive our full force." The fleet commander nodded, his face pale as he adjusted the weapons targeting systems. "All weapons online, Commandant. Ready to fire at will." Threx turned back to the main screen, watching as the Blackstar's silhouette grew larger in their view screen. The human ship was almost upon them now, and the time for hesitation was long past. Her fingers twitched over the command console, and with one sharp movement she barked, "Fire!" The weapon systems of the alien fleet unleashed a barrage of energy, beams of raw power shooting into the cold void. The Blackstar was enveloped in the blasts, the light from the explosions bright enough to blind the nearest observers. But when the light faded and the smoke cleared, the Blackstar was still there. It moved forward unharmed, undeterred. "Impossible!" one of the counselors shouted, disbelief lacing his voice. They can't have survived that." "Did you think that would stop us?" Captain Drake's voice crackled through the communications. "System." His tone was filled with ice-cold venom. You should have known better. The Blackstar's EMP surged outward, sweeping through the alien fleet's systems. In an instant, the energy signatures on their ships flickered and died. Systems going dark in an eerie mechanical silence. No, this can't be happening. Threx's voice trembled as she looked around, helpless. All systems are down. Our weapons, they're ours now. Drake's voice boomed through the comms, filled with undeniable confidence. Prepare to face the consequences of your underestimation. The Blackstar's cloaking device flickered, then deactivated. The ship surged forward with incredible speed, breaking through the perimeter of the alien fleet, its weapons ready to strike from the chaos of battle. An alien ship exploded in the distance, its hull disintegrating into a fiery spectacle. It was the first casualty of humanity's wrath, and it was just the beginning. Threx stood frozen, staring at the scene before her, unable to comprehend what she was witnessing. The sheer devastation, the speed, the power of the human ship. It was unlike anything the galaxy had ever faced before, and it was just one ship. Captain Drake watched the devastation unfold on the Blackstar's sensors. It was a beautiful sight, a moment of brutal clarity. He turned to Voss, his face set in grim determination. Keep pushing. We end this here. They don't get to leave. Voss nodded, her face set with the same resolve. Aye, sir, we're with you. As the Blackstar tore through the alien fleet, leaving destruction in its wake, one thing became undeniably clear to the galaxy. Humanity had entered the war, and nothing, absolutely nothing, could survive its path. The battle in the vastness of space continued to unfold with unimaginable intensity. The Blackstar, humanity's herald of vengeance, cut through the alien fleet like a blade through flesh. Its hull, a testament to human ingenuity and resolve, shimmered under the streaks of laser fire, moving faster than any of the alien ships could respond. The fleet's weapons had been rendered useless by the EMP, and now they were scrambling, confused, helpless. The aliens had made a fatal miscalculation. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. Captain Marcus Drake stood at the command station, his fingers clenched around the edge of the console, his eyes focused on the tactical display. The Blackstar's weapon systems were running at full capacity, decimating the enemy fleet in waves. The ship's advanced nanotech shields absorbed every blow, rendering the alien assault nothing more than an annoyance. Damage report, Drake said, his voice steady but sharp as ever. Minimal damage, Captain, Lieutenant Voss responded, her voice clipped with professional detachment. Shields are holding at 92%. We're taking hits, but nothing's getting through. Weapons are fully operational. The enemy is retreating. Drake nodded, his expression cold. Make sure they don't get away. We're not here for a skirmish. We're here to finish this. Send a message they'll never forget. Understood, Voss replied, turning to her console to execute the command. The Blackstar's engines roared with power, its speed unmatched by any of the alien ships in pursuit. Drake watched as one of the alien vessels tried to flee, its engines flaring in a desperate attempt to escape the relentless onslaught. He didn't hesitate. He activated the targeting systems. Lock on to that ship, he commanded, his tone unwavering. The ship's weapon systems responded instantly, aligning the massive energy cannons with the target. A brilliant burst of energy shot out, searing through the vacuum of space. The alien ship disintegrated in an explosion of fire and debris. One down, Voss said with a hint of grim satisfaction. Drake didn't smile. He couldn't afford to. They weren't finished yet. Keep pushing. Do not let a single ship leave this battlefield. As the battle raged on, the alien fleet's cohesion began to fracture. The fear and confusion that had been building in the council room now spread throughout the remaining fleet. They had never seen anything like the Blackstar. A single human ship, without support, without a fleet, had destroyed their most advanced ships with ruthless precision. The very notion that such a primitive species could wield such power was a blow to the psyche of the galaxy's most dominant species. Inside the alien command center, Threx watched helplessly as her fleet crumbled. The Council had underestimated humanity's resolve, their thirst for vengeance. Every move the aliens made seemed futile. The humans had come, and they were not retreating. They were not afraid. The Council was in chaos. Councillors shouted at each other, giving conflicting orders, scrambling to understand what had gone wrong. But it was too late for understanding. The Blackstar was already among them, ripping through their ships as if they were nothing more than paper. The terror in the room was palpable, as real and visceral as the explosions that rang out across the battlefield. "All ships, retreat!" Threx's voice cracked through the chaos, but her command was ignored. The damage was too severe. The Blackstar was relentless, and the remaining ships had no chance. "Activate the last defense protocol," one of the senior councillors shouted, his voice filled with desperation. "Prepare the superweapon. We have no other choice." Threx turned sharply, her eyes wild with panic. "Are you mad? The superweapon will destroy us all. We don't have time to—" But the decision had already been made. The final line of defense had been triggered. The alien fleet's flagship, the largest ship in their arsenal, powered up, its massive energy core glowing with an ominous light. Drake saw it. On his tactical display, the energy readings from the flagship spiked, and a warning flashed across the screen. He knew what it meant. The alien fleet had activated their last weapon, a doomsday device capable of wiping out entire systems with a single blast. They were desperate, ready to destroy everything rather than lose. "Prepare to engage the flagship," Drake ordered, his voice calm despite the rising threat. "We can't let them use that weapon." The Blackstar's cannons powered up, and the ship veered toward the alien flagship. The tension was unbearable. This was no longer just a battle. It was a race against time. The alien weapon was charging, its energy building at an alarming rate. If it fired, the consequences would be catastrophic, not just for the human fleet, but for the entire sector. Voss's voice broke the tension. "Captain, we've got a lock. Firing solutions are calculated." "We're ready." "Do it," Drake said. "Take them out now." The Blackstar's weapons unleashed a barrage of concentrated energy. The first shot hit the alien flagship's shields with a deafening crack, sending a shockwave through the surrounding ships. The second shot pierced the weakened shields, hitting the core of the superweapon. The explosion was immediate, violent, and unrelenting. The flagship disintegrated in a blinding flash of light, and the remaining alien ships scattered in every direction, their resolve shattered. The Blackstar's cannons continued to fire, methodical, unrelenting, until every last alien ship was either destroyed or fleeing into the depths of space. The battle was over. Drake stood silently, his hands resting on the console, watching the aftermath unfold on the screen. The enemy had been defeated, but it wasn't the victory that he was focused on. It was the cost of this war. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and now they would learn. "We've won," Voss said, her voice filled with quiet satisfaction. "But this isn't over. They'll regroup. They'll come back." Drake nodded, his gaze unwavering. "Let them. We've made our point. Earth is no longer a joke, and next time they won't have the luxury of underestimating us." He paused, staring out into the endless void of space. The Blackstar had delivered humanity's message, loud and clear. There would be no more mercies, no more negotiations. Humanity had entered the war, and nothing, absolutely nothing, would survive its path. "All systems, prepare for a course change. We're going home." The wreckage of the alien fleet drifted through space, the silence of defeat hanging in the void. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy would have to reckon with humanity, and Captain Marcus Drake was ready for whatever came next. The aftermath of the battle was an eerie silence. The once feared alien fleet lay in ruins, scattered across the emptiness of space like broken toys. The Blackstar floated calmly in the midst of the wreckage, its engines humming softly, its hull unmarred by the destruction it had wrought. Captain Marcus Drake stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the tactical display, watching as the last remnants of the alien forces drifted away into the void. "Status report," Drake asked, his voice steady, though the weight of what had happened was heavy in his chest. "We've destroyed their fleet, sir," Lieutenant Voss replied, her voice carrying a note of satisfaction, though her expression was grim. "There are no more targets. We've also intercepted their emergency distress signal. They'll be trying to regroup, but it's going to take them years to recover from this loss." Drake nodded. "Years? That's a long time for them to nurse their wounds. They'll be back sooner than we think." He turned to face the rest of the crew, all of whom were still working, still vigilant. The battle had been a resounding success, but it had come at a cost. Humanity had sent a message to the galaxy, but the war was far from over. The aliens were only one threat. The galaxy was full of others, each one more dangerous than the last. "We've taken the first step," Drake said, his voice unwavering. "But don't fool yourselves into thinking this is the end. We've shown them that Earth is not to be underestimated, but there will be others, and next time we'll be ready." His words were met with silence, a somber understanding settling over the crew. The victory was hollow. The galaxy had been forced to reckon with Earth, but there was no celebration, no time for rest. The war had just begun. A few days later, the Blackstar was back in orbit around Earth. The ship had delivered humanity's message, but now it was time to return to the home that had been forgotten by the rest of the universe. The people of Earth, still recovering from centuries of war, had no idea what had transpired, but Drake knew that their time had come. The galaxy would know that Earth was no longer a backwater, forgotten planet. Humanity had proven it was capable of defending itself, of striking back against those who sought to destroy it. As the Blackstar descended through Earth's atmosphere, Drake stood at the front of the bridge, watching as the familiar blue and green planet grew larger. The silence of space had given way to the hum of the ship's engines, and the planet below, once so small and insignificant in the eyes of the galaxy, now felt like the center of everything. "We've done it, Captain," Voss said, standing beside him, her voice quiet but filled with a sense of accomplishment. "We've shown the galaxy that Earth is not to be trifled with." Drake didn't answer immediately. His thoughts were on the bigger picture, on what came next. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Earth had just become a player in a much larger game. A game that would see new allies, new enemies, and new challenges. The galaxy was no longer a distant, untouchable expanse. It was now within reach, and humanity would have its place in it. "Whether the galaxy liked it or not, it's not over," he said quietly. "The Blackstar is just the beginning. We've sent a message, but the universe doesn't forget. We'll need to prepare for the next fight, and the one after that." Voss nodded, understanding the weight of his words. "We'll be ready, sir. Humanity has always fought to survive. Now we've shown them we're not just survivors, we're conquerors." The Blackstar touched down on Earth, its engines quieting, as the massive warship settled into its designated landing zone. A small crowd of officials, scientists, and military leaders stood at attention, waiting for Drake and his crew to disembark. The ship's hull groaned as the landing gear locked into place and the ramp slowly lowered to the ground. Drake stepped out first, followed by Voss and the rest of the crew. The air was thick with the scent of Earth's atmosphere, and for the first time in a long while, Drake allowed himself to take a deep breath. It had been a long journey, one that had changed the fate of his people forever. But the battle had left scars, both visible and unseen. As he walked toward the waiting officials, Drake couldn't help but wonder what the future held for humanity. The Blackstar had opened a door, but what lay on the other side? New alliances, new wars, The unknown was terrifying, but Drake knew one thing for certain: humanity would not go quietly into the shadows of space. Inside the command center, the final briefing was underway. The destruction of the alien fleet had sent shockwaves through the galactic community, but what had been left unsaid was more important than any victory. The humans had proven they could fight back, but the galaxy's response would come soon enough. The aliens would regroup, and they would not forget the sting of defeat. And when they returned, humanity would be ready. Drake sat at the head of the table, his face a mask of stoic determination. The crew around him, his trusted officers, were silent, each of them processing the enormity of what had been done. "We've made our mark," Drake said, breaking the silence. "But this is just the beginning. It's time we start thinking bigger." The room remained silent for a moment before Voss spoke. "You're right. It's time for Earth to take its place in the galaxy. We've shown what we're capable of. Now we need to build alliances, gather information, and prepare for the challenges ahead." Drake nodded, his gaze fixed on the star-filled screen before him. "Earth's not just a planet anymore. We're a force, and we're going to make sure. The galaxy knows it. The final chapter of the battle had been written, but the true story of humanity was just beginning. The Blackstar had led them into a new age, one where Earth would no longer be a forgotten backwater. It was time to fight for their place in the stars, and this time nothing would stand in their way.